Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you had a good weekend, and welcome to the coaching call. If you got things happening, things of concern, things going well, we'd love to hear about it. Everybody could benefit from that. So as always, I've got stuff to cover. So we'll miss you. Watch for those comments if we have any. So the first thing I'd like to ask you, and I'd like some answers on this, is how many of you would like to do free events? I want some answers here, please. How many events would you do if they were free? So we're getting some saying yes. Okay, so we only got 4 people, so I'm at 5. Okay. Cool. Okay. So here's what I want to show you. What if there was a way? Well, first of all, let's just talk about what the idea is. There is a guy here in Rochester who built one of the 10 largest long-term care practices. So in a small town of 100,000 people, so he's also only got about 12,000 people in his target market, because there's 100,000 people, but there are only 12,000 retirees here. So in a town of 12,000 retirees, he has built one of the top 10 long-term care insurance practices in the country. So is that impressive or is that not impressive? And here's the thing. He has done it without spending a dime on marketing. And how did he do it? He did it using community education. So community education is not the thing that Emerald does or some of the other people out there doing it at community education community colleges. This is community education. You know those catalogs that you get that some people are in there, they have a whole section on people teaching Spanish and Italian and Russian and Chinese, and there's a section in there on basket weaving and painting and watercolor and whatever else, and then there's a section in there on physical education like fencing and volleyball, I mean all sorts of kayaking, all sorts of other things. So it's people in the community teaching people in the community, and he did it in the financial section. So he teaches one night long-term care, 2-hour long-term care classes, and that's the only way he's ever advertised. So community education does not cost you any money. They put your little blurb in the magazine that comes out. Depends on the community. Some of them do them once a quarter. Some of them do them twice a year. So like here in Rochester, it's they have a spring, summer, and a fall, winter. So it's twice a year. One catalog's for spring, summer. One catalog's for fall, winter. And unlike community education, which is unlike the Emerald or some of the other ones that are doing it at colleges, which are basically 3 classes long, 2 hours each, community education can be just like 1 hour. So basically you can do the presentation, the outside the box. So if you did the outside the box presentation, and you did the Social Security presentation separately, and we even have another one, you could do the fire, floods, and taxes separately, okay? So if you did that, you have 3 separate different types of events that you could do. And let's just assume you're in a community that has the catalog come out twice a year. Okay, so how many events is that right there? That's 6 events right there, right? And how much did it cost you? Nothing, because what you do is you apply, and then whatever, they might charge you $50 or something like that, but then you can charge people $5, $10, $15, $30, $100 to come. But remember, you want it at the lowest possible denominator, so $5, $10 for people to come. You want it very low. Now, when Missy did this, this for our area, she found within a 20-minute driving, and again, I'm in rural Minnesota. We have one big city of 100,000 people surrounded by an hour and a half of farmland in every direction, but there's a bunch of little bedroom communities everywhere. So when she did that, she came up with actually 20 different community education courses that we could do in some of the smaller cities surrounding it as well. So that's 3 times 2 times 20 times let's say that you would get 5 people there, and so that's a low ball. That's a low ball. So what does that equal? So we got 6 times 20 is 120 times 5 is what? 120 times 5 is what? Isn't it? Is that my math right, guys? Yeah, thank you. I guess it is. Everything's 600. And what did it cost you to get in front of those people? What did it cost you to get in front of them? Nothing. 0. Now here's the downside. This is not going to happen next month. So these, as Missy did a lot of research and she called around, spot checked other states across the country. Basically, a lot of these people require you to call them 3 months or even up to 6 months before they actually do the class, because there's only maybe 2 people running the community education class, and they're getting all this information. So they actually accumulate and aggregate all that information up front. So some of them require 3 months to all the way up to 6 months prior notice. Okay, so that means, let's say, well, first of all, guys, I want everybody who thinks this is worth doing to write down, because I'm going to hold you accountable. Because basically, if you're not willing to do this for free, what are you willing to do marketing-wise? Is there any reason anybody, please, somebody give me a reason why you would not want to do this? What are you out? Is there any reason not to do this? Okay? So if you're going to do this, how soon should you do it? How soon should you start working on this? Everybody's saying now, and here's the reason now. Let's say it's one of these communities that's 6 months out, and their deadline is next Monday, okay? And I think, well, you know what? Or let's instead of saying Monday, let's say it's this Friday, okay? The deadline is it's Friday. And then I think, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. This sounds good. And next week when I have some time, I'm going to do this. So you call them up on Monday. What do you think they're going to say? What are they going to say? Oh, yeah, we can squeeze you in. Yeah. Remember, guys, this is a couple people running this whole program. They work for the government. They're not very highly paid. So what are they going to say when you come in Monday when the cutoff is Friday? Too late. You're exactly right, Bill and Peter. So now, remember, if it's 6 months, now how far are you going to be out? Another 6 months. So what's 6 months plus 6 months, guys? 12 months. So now you don't get to do this for a full year. So when should you do this? Since you don't know when the cutoff dates are, when should you do this? Because it shouldn't take you much more than a day to do this. I'm going to have, and Missy, can you get on and just kind of talk about how you did it?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you going to talk about the manual out there as well, or do you want me to bring that up?
Well, I'll bring the manual up here.
Okay,
so
perfect.
I already got it up. Okay.
So essentially, there's kind of some helpful hints.
So before we do that,
yep,
see on the green right here in the marketing, there's the community education. Does everybody see that? Click that, and there's the manual. Okay, Missy.
Okay. So the process is very simple to get started. Essentially, the community education appears to be very connected to a school district. So around you, think of the different school districts, and essentially each one of those school districts most likely have their own community education program. So the easiest way to get started, Google whatever your immediate area is, community education. It's across the board, and I spot checked about 4 or 5 places in 4 or 5 different states, and to just kind of see and make sure that that rule relatively was similar across the whole entire country, and that seems to be the case. Now where they differ is, like Mike brought up, the frequency of how often they run their programs. Could be 2, could be 3. Some of them are even 4 times, and they do it just on the actual season. So they might have a fall, winter, spring, and summer. More commonly is 2 or 3 that they do a year. The timeline can vary dramatically. So it can be, 3 months, it can be 6 months for planning purposes. Now, when you Google, Rochester Community Education, or your city community education, you most likely will be driven into a website. It could be a very great website that's got tons of information, and there's maybe even a form on there that says, hey, we're looking for instructors, fill out this online form, and that's how you start the process. Or it might be as simple as one page that pops up on the internet and says, for more information on community education, here's a person that you can contact, a phone number or an email address. So it's kind of across the gamut, but you need to just take that first step, and I assure you, if you email them or call them, they will get back to you. They are looking for community education instructors. This is not something that, they have an overwhelming population that is doing this. They're constantly looking and welcoming more community education classes. So take the initiative, go out there, look and see what's on your what's in your area. And like Mike said, yeah, I mean, we came up with 40 communities, and it was actually within a 45-minute area. But that's a ton of places to move around, and we're a relatively small community. So you could spend, and they don't all fall on the exact same time frame. So I might have to do it in Rochester, or I might have an opportunity to do it in Rochester 3 times, but in the neighboring communities, they might be on opposite months doing 2 times a year. So you have to go out, do a little bit of the legwork, and figure out how frequent and when do you need to get this information in. Submit your little class proposal, if an online form, or send an email saying, hey, I'm interested, what's your process? They'll get back to you, and they'll tell you exactly what the next steps are. Very simple to get started.
Okay, guys, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to take a deep breath because we present this to you. And guys, can I just ask you basically? And Jeff's running into my office right now because he sees my tea kettle boiling right now. I just presented this to you guys, and what did I say? How did I begin this, guys? How did I begin this conversation? Did I talk about somebody using this? Did I talk about somebody using this, guys? Oh, yeah, a long-term care guy. And so immediately I get 3 fucking messages talking about how well this will work, or what, guys? Hey, has anybody tested this? Has anybody seen if there's going to be any pushback? Does anybody think we can do this for profit? Guys, how much does this cost? Get your ass out there and find out. This long-term care guy, is he for profit or not for profit? I told you he built his biggest one of the top 10 long-term care practices in the country using this. There's attorneys in there doing this. What do you think they're doing? Talking about trusts. There's people in here charging money to teach languages. What are they? Free? They're charging $100. The community education understands this for frigging profit. What's our outside-the-box magic about, guys? Selling product? What's the Social Security about? Selling product? They know the attorneys in there trumping up business. They know the language persons in there, the dance people, the karate people are all trumping up business. They know that. So can you, it just cracks me up. Every time we roll something out, you got the dumbasses doing what? Figuring out how it's going to work or why it won't work. If you don't want to friggin' do it, don't do it. and I'm sorry for being angry, but every time we roll something out like this, there's an immediate friggin' boom, 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 boom questions about why won't this work? If you want me to continue to roll stuff like this out, guys, let's not have dumbass questions like that, okay? So use it, don't use it. I just scratch my head sometimes, guys. Free marketing, 600 people, and we're all wondering why it's not going to work. And I told you that people have built their for-profit businesses using this. So let's get our head out of you-know-where and decide whether we want to sit around on our hands wondering why we can't see people, or do something about getting in front of people with no cost. Guys, did I say this is going to cost you $5 grand? Yeah, that's right, Casey. You create your own luck. So how are you going to know if this is going to work? Well, first of all, it's worked all the way across the country for long-term care guys and for attorneys. How many of our competitors are doing it? Yeah, and in Rochester, there's 2 guys doing it for the financial advisors. And across the country, there's a few here and there doing it. So get on the internet, find the communities, and get on this, guys, for free. And we're trying to figure out why it's not going to work. Just please help yourselves. Get on, do this, chop, chop, and get in front of people, okay? So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. So here we go.
So I'm going to share my screen here. So hold on just a second as I get this set up here. And actually today what we're going to be talking about is Social Security. I get a lot of questions about Social Security, so let me see if I can bring this up for you guys. And so we thought I answer a lot of individual questions about Social Security. Social Security is something that we're very familiar with. And you guys, I'm sure, have seen a lot of things about Social Security out there in the last several years. So there are a lot of people out there talking about Social Security. There are a lot of things being written about Social Security. There are a lot of programs out there to help you kind of put Social Security in the public's mind. And Social Security planning has kind of become a big deal. A lot's been written about it over the last couple of years. And I think it's because people have seen the opportunity for clients to get a lot more money in benefits by knowing how Social Security works. And today what I kind of want to talk about as well is how you guys as well can make more money by knowing how Social Security works. And I'm not going to get into a lot of detail today. I'm not going to talk about strategies in detail. Certainly we can help you with that if you have questions about that. Many of you I have helped with that. But I thought today what we would do is just start by talking about the basics, kind of answering the questions, how can your clients get more money in Social Security benefits? Also answering the question, how can you make money with Social Security planning? And then maybe taking a look at some of the issues or obstacles on both sides, both from the client's perspective and from the advisor's perspective as well. So let's just kind of jump in and ask the question, how can your clients get more money by knowing the Social Security rules? And really, when you look at all these strategies, basically they're all leveraging the fact that most married couples have 4, not 2 benefits. So immediately people, the general public, will think, well, I've got a benefit, my wife's got a benefit, and those are the only 2 benefits that we have. But in reality, they have 4 benefits if you count the spousal benefits. And it's this switching back and forth between them that allows people to collect something now, and that's key because a lot of people can't wait to collect Social Security. They need the money now, so they can collect something now and collect something more later. And so just as an example, something that I might use in a workshop or something that I might use at an initial meeting, I might give an example. And so I would ask somebody, Mary, did you ever earn income that required you to pay taxes? And we live in a world now where most couples that are in their 50s and early 60s have both worked, and so they would say, yeah. And so you have a work record, and that qualifies you for a benefit, but you're also eligible for a separate benefit based on, let's call him John's work record. And so John, you also have two benefits, one based on your work record and one based on Mary's work record. And so right away, I'd say that we would want to do an analysis of the ways in which you can file for multiple benefits and switch back and forth between them to get bigger checks. The average client in your particular situation gets over $140,000 in additional lifetime benefits. So just as an example, let's just say the husband had a benefit of $2,000 per month. And let's say the wife had a benefit of $900 per month. And so here's what most people would do. Most people would go out and file as soon as they could. And so that means the husband would get how much? $2,000. And the wife would get how much? $900. And that's what most people would do. But that's a mistake. And you'd have to know how to do this, and Social Security isn't going to tell you this. But the wife is eligible for a spousal benefit equal to half of her husband's benefit. So how much would she get if she filed the right paperwork? Well, it turns out it's $1,000 per month instead of the $900 per month. And then her $900 per month benefit would grow at 8% per year for 4 years. And what do you know that grows 8% guaranteed per year above and beyond inflation? And everybody's going to say nothing. And when her benefit maxes out at $1,188 per month, she can switch to that. Right off the bat, that's an extra $100 per month, the difference between $900 and $1,000 for 4 years, 48 months, plus extra $288 per month, the difference between $900 and $1,188 for life. And here's the key. Did they have to wait any longer to get that extra money? Did they have to wait to file? No, not necessarily. They didn't have to do anything different. It was just a matter of filing a little extra paperwork. Now, I always tell people when we go through these examples, this may or may not be your exact situation. But we really should do an expert analysis anytime both spouses have a work record. Because what it would mean, let me just ask this, how would it be to have an extra $140,000? That's just free money. I mean, that isn't going to hurt, right? And it can only take pressure off of a portfolio, because that's what people are concerned about when they retire, that they're going to be living off their savings, and that's pressure on that account. And in this kind of an environment where we're not really, the market's doing really well, but the losses are still fresh in our mind, and we certainly live in a more volatile environment. And in that kind of a scenario or that kind of environment, is it important to add pressure or take pressure off of a portfolio? And so adding $140,000 on average for a married couple in benefits and Social Security will absolutely take pressure off of a portfolio. Now, guys, there are a lot of other examples, but you get the idea. It's possible to collect a lot more money in benefits just by knowing the rules, just by knowing how and when to file. So that's why this kind of thing has become so popular. So one question we could ask is, why is this happening now? Why didn't people do this back in the 80s? Why didn't they do it in the 90s? Well, the reason that it's become so popular all of a sudden is back in the late 90s, Congress and people in the budget office were kind of looking down the road, and they realized that Social Security, isn't really going to be able to sustain itself forever. I mean, they get a lot of money from payroll taxes, but there are fewer people working to support retirees, and so at this pace, we're going to have to do something if we're going to make it last. And so the things that were talked about were, let's increase the retirement age. Used to be 65, now it's 66. For some of us, it's going to be 67. And so they went ahead and they did that. They increased the retirement age. But the other thing they thought is, well, how can we get people to work longer? As soon as people are eligible to retire, they just retire. If we could give them an incentive to work longer, that would be great. And so what they did is they passed this Senior Citizens Freedom to Work Act in 2000. And here's kind of a synopsis of the act, but it's this clause right here that permits, beginning with the month in which the beneficiary reaches full retirement age and ending with the month prior to the attainment of age 70, the retired worker can earn a delayed retirement credit for any month for which the retired worker requests that benefit not to be paid, even though she is already on the benefit rolls. Now, that's just a lot of legal talk for the strategies that have kind of evolved from them. Some smart people looked at that wording, and they came up with some clever ways to turn this to more benefits. And it wasn't long after that the people at the Boston College Center for Retirement Research wrote a paper on it that just went viral. It's called Unusual Social Security Claiming Strategies. And it really outlined how you could get more benefits by taking advantage of the wording in that congressional act, that Senior Citizens Freedom to Work Act. And so it really took off. We know about it now. Many of you have seen this paper or have heard about this paper, and a lot of workshops and software are the result of all of this. So here's what I want you to know. A couple of things, I guess, that it's important to keep in mind. When we talk about these benefits and increasing somebody's monthly checks, we're really talking about real money. I mean, it can make a big difference, like we talked about. A married couple averages an additional $140,000 in benefits as a result of these strategies. So we're not talking a few extra bucks every month. We're talking about a lot of money, especially as you kind of project that out from the time they retire to their life expectancy. We're talking about a lot of money. And here's the other thing that we know now that we didn't necessarily know 2 or 3 years ago. It absolutely positively works. So much so that many of you have probably read or heard that in the last budget, the Obama administration kind of put a shot out across the bow saying file and suspend, one of the more popular strategies, the one I kind of talked about in that example that I went through, is something that they'd like to take a look at doing away with. And the only reason they want to do away with it is because they're realizing now that, hey, this is going to cost us a lot of money. This is actually working. People have figured out ways to kind of game the system, if you will, to make a lot more money and pull a lot more benefits out of Social Security. So it's gotten everybody's attention. Not because it doesn't work, but because it does work and people are starting to do it. So we're talking about a significant amount of money, and we're talking about something that really works. And while we've been kind of talking about married couples and we've been kind of zeroing in on them, this actually benefits everybody. Knowing the rules is a way for everybody to make more money over their lifetime. So certainly anybody who's married benefits, but also anybody that's ever been married. These rules and these strategies work for people who have been married but are divorced. These strategies and these things work for people who have been married and maybe are widowed. So it works for married couples. It works for anybody who's ever been married, people who are divorced, people who are widowed. And it even works for people who have never been married. Even they can benefit from knowing the rules. There's not as much as you can do for them, but just as an example. Somebody that's single would normally be told to kind of look at a break-even chart or file when they're full retirement age, whatever that is for them, whether it's 65 or 66, or if they have a long life expectancy, to file at 68 or 69. But really, if you knew the rules, you'd know that probably you should file when you're 66 and suspend, even if you want to collect higher benefits at 68 or 69. And that's because, let's say you did get sick and you decided, man, I need the money now. You could go ahead and file, and they would backdate that application 6 months. So if you were 68 years old, they would backdate it to 67 years and 6 months. But if you filed and suspended at 66, and then found out at 68 that you were sick and you needed the money now, you could go ahead and collect the benefit at 68, and they would backdate it all the way to 66. So it's a way to kind of work around those backdating rules. That's kind of complicated, but I just wanted to make the point that even people who are single can benefit and increase the amount of money that they get from Social Security by knowing the rules. So this is really something that works for everybody. People that are married, people that were married but are divorced, people that were married but are widowed, and even single people benefit by knowing all of these rules. So that's how your clients or your prospects can benefit from Social Security planning. And the best part is it's real money, and it really does work. It's proven to work. So that's how they benefit. But how do you benefit from Social Security and knowing how it works? How does that make you more money? Well, there are a couple of ways that I'm going to talk about, and I'll talk about them fairly quickly, and that is the first way is Social Security workshops. Mike just talked about the fact that you can do these for free through community education. And we're really leveraging the idea that they can't get this information on switching back and forth between their benefit and spousal benefits. You can't get that from the Social Security Administration. The people at Social Security are not allowed to give you advice on claiming strategies because they don't want to make a mistake. They're only allowed to tell you how much you would get. If you ask them, how much will I get if I take at age 67, they'll answer your question. How much will I get if I wait until 68? They'll answer your question. Any question you have, they'll answer. But they're not going to put together a strategy for you, and they're certainly not going to put together multiple strategies for you and go through the advantages and the disadvantages of them with you to help you kind of pick the one that's best for you. They don't do that. And so these workshops are a great way to get the word out that you can help in ways that the Social Security Administration can't. And what I found from people that do them is that they're pretty well attended. And you don't have to spend as much to do them. You're really just mailing out cheap cards, and because they're really coming for the education and the information, the people that do them aren't feeding. And Mike just talked about a way that you can do them for free. Here's the thing that I would tell you, though. While they do and they can work, these workshops, they're not a silver bullet. The attendance isn't going to last forever, and here's why. Even though you might have them well attended, that attendance isn't going to last forever. The reason is when we do something like Outside the Box, we're really mailing to people 55 to 75, and that's a big pool of people. When you're talking about Social Security planning, you're really only talking about people who are, say, 61, 67. So right away, we've kind of narrowed or really limited that pool of people. And those people are super interested in learning about Social Security planning. Once they kind of know what the strategies are and how they work, they're not going to go to multiple workshops. They're only going to go once. And so while they're well attended at first, that attendance falls off because you're kind of working through that pool of people, and once they've seen and heard it, they've seen and heard it. They don't need to see and hear it again. So that attendance won't last forever. And if we're just going to be honest, a lot of those people aren't going to have money. Because if you're really relying on Social Security as a big part of your retirement income, or the majority of your retirement income, people probably don't have a lot of money. So you're going to run into a lot of people who don't have a lot of money. But I guess the good news is people with money still want to get as much as possible from Social Security, so they'll be there too. The key, though, is you have to have a bridge, a way to get people who only want to look at Social Security and get them to talk about their finances. Because the biggest problem that I see out there is guys do Social Security workshops. They get a lot of people to come. They get a lot of people to make appointments, but they don't want to give anybody their statements. Because the way they look at it is, I'm just here for ideas on how to get more from Social Security. Why would I want to give you my financial statements? Why would I want you to look at my investments? You don't need to know that. to do what you promised, to show me how to get more out of Social Security. So you have to have that bridge, that way to get people to go from just looking at Social Security and transition them into a financial planning conversation and a financial planning mindset. And really, quite frankly, this is the most important step. And too many people start out without a clear way of knowing how they're going to make that transition, and so they do these workshops and they flop. They don't have any results. They just get a bunch of people who want them to give them a Social Security report and then not call them or talk to them ever again. You have to have that bridge in mind before you even go in to do a workshop. So what is that bridge? How do you get people to go from just wanting to talk about Social Security to wanting to look at financial planning as well? Well, there's a few ways that you can do that I've seen that work. One way is taxes. So if you have a tax practice, or if you can do mock tax returns, and if you don't know how, that's something that we can help you with here in this office. We can teach you how, and we can work with you on that. A lot of people talk about keeping taxes on Social Security at zero. And so that's one way that you can make that transition from Social Security into financial planning. Another way that people use taxes is talking about how to get in the 0% tax bracket environment, and tax-free Social Security is really one leg of that retirement income that can be tax-free and put you in that 0% tax bracket. So if you want more information about that, we can certainly help you with that, but that's one way. Taxes is one way to bridge from just Social Security into financial planning. Another great way to bridge from Social Security to financial planning, because we're switching back and forth between benefits, if you were incapacitated, you might need somebody to do that for you. You might be well enough to go ahead and file and suspend, but if you're incapacitated in the 3 years between switching from one benefit to another, you might need somebody to do that for you. So what we find is the power of attorney is a great way to kind of bridge from Social Security and steer people into that 21-point checklist. In fact, it's probably the most powerful way, and you guys are all familiar with it. And if you're not, we can help you with it. And there's kind of a specific Social Security example and talk I would give to get people to go from about the power of attorney, to get people from looking just at Social Security and steering them into that 21-point checklist. That's another way to do it. And it's a very powerful way, and it's something that all of you can do. So taxes, power of attorney. Another way to kind of bridge people from Social Security and steer them into the 21-point checklist, and this is actually a slide from our workshop, is talking about how Social Security and Medicare are kind of linked and connected. It's linked and connected in some unexpected ways, and if you don't know how that works, you're going to make a mistake. So you have to be careful with the way that Social Security is connected to and kind of fits into Medicare. And so that's another way to kind of bridge that conversation from just talking about Social Security to talking about health care costs and expenses and Medicare and financial planning, and kind of steer people to that 21-point checklist. I mean, the key for us on 5Q is steering people into that 21-point checklist. Taxes are a great way to do that. Power of attorney is the most powerful way to do that. Talking about how Social Security is connected to Medicare is another way to do that. But those are all good ways to bridge that conversation at the agreement meeting from just Social Security and steer people into the 21-point checklist. Because if we can get them into a 21-point checklist, we have a good chance of getting them as a client. So doing workshops is a good way. It's not a silver bullet by any means, but if you could do it for free at a community education center and you have that clear bridge in mind, and we can help you with that, whether you want to use Medicare, power of attorney, taxes, or all of the above, we can certainly help you with that. And make sure that you're talking to us here before you go out and run out and do any of these things, because like I said, if you don't have that bridge ahead of time, before you even do the workshop, if you don't even know what that is, you're not going to succeed. You're going to flop. Okay, so make sure you have that in place. Workshops one way to get the word out. Another way that advisors have been able to leverage Social Security and turn it into more money for themselves is to generate referrals by doing Social Security mini workshops or talks with other professionals. For example, CPAs. This is high on their radar. This is something that when they get the AICP newsletter, that Social Security planning is in there. This is something that they get CPE credits for. And in a lot of states, the only thing you need to do to be able to offer CPE credits is turn in an outline to the CPA oversight committee in the state, or just have it available. So it's easy to do. So they're very interested in it. You can give the same talk that you might give to the public. I might give some ideas on how to beef that up, but CPAs are very interested in hearing how this works. Someone else that's very interested in hearing how this works, divorce attorneys. Because people that are divorced are still eligible for benefits based on their ex's work record. And so divorce attorneys are always looking for ways to leverage that to get more money for their clients. So doing these presentations for CPAs, doing them for divorce attorneys, even doing them for property casualty agents. It's a great way to kind of differentiate yourself, because the biggest obstacle to getting referrals from CPAs, attorneys, not so much from property casualty, but especially CPAs and attorneys, is they really don't know how you're different. And so the 21-point checklist is a great way to show them how you're different, that you're not like every other financial planner that's pitching them. But showing them that you have expertise in Social Security is another great way, and doing both really makes you stand out. And the other thing that even if they thought you were different, and even if they thought that people should talk to you, a lot of times they don't refer because they just don't know how to refer you. They just don't know quite what to say to somebody who might make a good client for you. They just don't know how to pass your name along. And so being able to tell them, hey, if you know anybody that's 61 to 65 and they're getting ready to file for Social Security, just tell them, you know somebody who can help them on average get $140,000 in extra benefits over their lifetime. It might be worth, speaking to them for 15, 20 minutes. So now they know how you're different, and they have a great way to refer you. It's a very natural talk. Hey, have you guys getting close to filing for Social Security? Yeah, we're thinking about it. Hey, I know a guy. Before you do that, you might want to talk to him before you go down and file. So that gives them an easy way to refer you. So that's how you can leverage it, through the workshops and by doing talks with CPAs, divorce attorneys, estate planning attorneys. I know that at national conferences for attorneys, they talk about, they bring in speakers to talk about Social Security planning. So it's pretty easy to get in with an estate planning attorney and do one in his small office in your area. Let's talk, though, about some of the issues or the obstacles or the questions that come up when you start working in this arena. And so one thing that's going to come up is people, clients or prospects are going to say, well, the Social Security planning sounds great, but I don't know if it's really worthwhile, because how do we even know that Social Security is even going to be around? I mean, with the problems, with the deficit and all this, the government will eventually have to cut Social Security, at least to some extent. And to be honest with you, it's been talked about. And while I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, it's definitely on the radar. It's definitely in the news, and it's something that you have to be aware of, and it's something that you have to address. And so what we're talking about are strategies that can increase someone's benefits by $140,000 over their lifetime, but we're really talking, bottom line, 40 to 60% higher Social Security checks each month. So by using these strategies, you can just take 50% as an average. You can make somebody's monthly check 50% bigger. And while it's true that there could eventually be cuts across the board to Social Security if that happens, you know, what they're really talking about is payroll taxes over the next 10, 12 years might only really be able to pay for 70% of the benefits that you receive now. So if we wanted to keep Social Security self-sustaining, we might have to cut everybody's benefit by 30%. And so let me ask you this. Would you rather get 70% of what you would get without a strategy? Or would you rather get 7% of what you would get with a strategy? Because a strategy is going to get you $140,000 more on average in benefits. So would you rather get, if they do cut it to 30% to make it self-sustaining, you might only get 70% of that sometime in the future, but that's a lot better than not having a plan and not having a strategy. So for clients and prospects, it still makes sense to do this. It makes a lot of sense. We're either talking about $140,000 or we're talking about 70% of $140,000, but either way, that's still a lot of money. From an advisor's perspective, a lot of times what advisors think or worry is that, well, these claiming strategies might eventually go away too, because we just said that one of the great things about this is that it works. And we're not the only ones to notice that it works. Clients aren't the only ones to notice that it works. The government's noticed that, hey, this works. And we have to put an end to this someday. Now, Social Security is a congressional program, so the president can't just do away with it, no matter who the president is. It'll take an act of Congress, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. But let's say it does happen in the next 4 or 5 years. Does that really matter to you guys? I mean, if you can make hay for 4 or 5 years before these go away, what should you do? Go ahead and make hay. I mean, even for clients, it makes sense to do this planning anyway, and quite frankly for you, especially if you've got a way to do them for free in community education centers. And if you can only do it for 4 or 5 years, do it for 4 or 5 years. Here's another issue that you'll hear from clients. Well, it sounds like these strategies really want me to wait before I collect Social Security to leverage that growth while I'm waiting. And to be honest with you, I need the money now. And so that's one thing that that's a myth that I kind of want to dispel, because, you know, like we talked about in the example that we looked at earlier, what these strategies really allow you to do is collect some money now and collect some more money later. So we're not necessarily telling somebody to go without and sacrifice now. We're saying, we don't collect your full benefit now, but we'll get you something. We'll get you 70, 80% of that full benefit so that we can get 130 or 140% of the benefit in a couple, 3 years. And we can show you ways to kind of bridge the difference between the 80% that you're collecting now and the 100% that you're kind of needing. Because believe me, when you start collecting those checks that are 150% bigger, you're going to really be glad that we did that. It really makes sense. So even if they need the money now, these strategies work for them. We're not asking anybody to go without benefits for any length of time. We're saying, no, we can get you benefits now. It's just that by filling out the right paperwork and by following a plan and kind of adhering to a strategy, we can get you even more later. But we're not asking you to do without now. We can show you how to get money now. And that's kind of the same answer, because a lot of advisors will think, well, you know, this Social Security planning, it's tough because the people that I'm running into, they can't wait to file. They need the money now. And that's really good for us because we can use the power of attorney. We can use taxes. We can use the fact that they need the money now to steer people into the 21-point checklist. And if they go through the 21-point checklist, they're going to want to leave their current advisor and work with you. And again, we can show them how to collect now and convert their other assets to income, collect more later. We can show them how to bridge that gap. You know, I'm just going to stop and talk about an issue that I hear about a lot of times too, which is people are always saying, well, I'll bridge that conversation from Social Security into financial planning by talking about income. I'll do some income planning. And that's great for wealthy people who really don't need to do income planning. But it's no good for people who can't wait to file. They need the money now. So that's a crappy bridge. And whenever I hear people doing Social Security, they say, well, I have these programs that I've been talking to have this great way of getting people to give you all their statements by using income planning. Guys, you'll flop. That won't work. It won't work with people who don't need to do income planning, wealthy people, and it won't work for people who can't wait to collect because they'll think, I can't do income planning. My plan is to take Social Security now. So why would I want to give you my statements? That's not a good way to bridge. So, but again, this is something that's easily overcome. One thing you'll hear people talk about, prospects, clients, is that, geez, kind of knowing these strategies and switching back and forth, that seems kind of complicated. And if they say that, that's awesome. That's good for us. Because if it were easy, would they need us? If they could get this information from Social Security, would they need us? But they can't get this information from Social Security. And it's not easy. So they need us. The flip side of that from an advisor's perspective is sometimes I'll hear advisors say, wow, this is kind of a lot to get my head around. This is really complicated. And the good news for us is the software makes it easy. So I can help you with your Social Security questions. We've got the software here in our office that can run reports for you. The software answers any and all questions that anybody might have about Social Security, and so it's not complicated for us. People have found a way to come out with software that makes it really easy for us. So certainly there are rules and strategies that can help someone collect a lot more in Social Security, and there are ways for us as advisors to leverage those rules and strategies so that we can make more money knowing Social Security in our practice as well. And so all of us here at 5Q, we have experience with Social Security events. We can kind of talk about the pitfalls and what needs to happen to make them a success, because if you don't address these things, they will be a failure. But we know where the obstacles are, we know how to overcome them, we know how to bridge people from Social Security to the 21-point checklist. We know the rules and the strategies. So if you have questions about Social Security, certainly ask us. We have the software to run Social Security reports for you. And again, I can't harp on this enough or touch on this enough. We can show you how to convert Social Security questions into sales using a bridge and the 21-point checklist. So call us if you have questions. Now with that, I think that's it. And like we said, this is something that, like Mike talked about, you can do for free. It's not just that's a low cost and you don't have to feed, but now it's something you can even do for free. So get out there and do this. But before you do it, make sure you touch base with somebody here, because there are a lot of pitfalls. There are a lot of ways for this not to work. But doing it right gives you a huge advantage over everybody else that's out there doing it, and gives you something other than income planning to use the bridge, because income planning just isn't a good bridge, guys. And call us. We can help you. We can run the reports. We can answer your questions. We can kind of help you clarify and get that bridge straight before you go out and do these things. So again, get out there and do this and give us a call if you have any questions. That's all I got.
Jeff, I have a couple of questions that came in.
Mm-hmm.
So file and suspend, does that need to be done before filing?
It doesn't necessarily, no, not necessarily. It depends on when they filed and how long ago they filed. Certainly people that have been collecting Social Security for a long time, there isn't as much that I guess here's the way I would answer that question. It depends. In general, who can I help? Who can't I help? Anybody that's 70 or over, I cannot help. Even if they've already filed, if they're under 70, I can probably still help them. What I can do for them kind of narrows as they get close. So there's a lot I could do for a 66-year-old even if they already filed. There's only a very little I could do for a 69-year-old even if they haven't filed. So filing isn't necessarily an obstacle. Their age is more the determining factor than anything else.
And to get a spousal benefit, does the person have to be 62 or 66?
You can get a spousal benefit at 62. You just have to be eligible for Social Security, be 62.
And can people that already filed go back and redo this for a spouse?
It depends on the situation. Again, it depends on when they filed and how long ago they filed. Like I said, there's something I can do for everybody as long as they're not 70. Maybe. I mean, we'd have to talk. We'd have to look at the situation.
And let's see, what is the ideal age to approach someone for this Social Security discussion?
Well, the ideal age is really somebody that's getting ready to file, anywhere from 61, because they can file as early as 62, up to 70. But I probably wouldn't advertise to people that were my target. I probably advertise people 61 to 66 or 67.
And do you have the software to run the reports, and what software do you use?
Yes, we have software to run the reports. We use Social Security timing. If you get to a place where you might do your own reports, certainly I can talk to you about some other software programs that I like as well. All of the software programs that I've seen do a good job of showing you what you can do and what the optimal strategies are, which is really all people want to know. What's the best thing to do? So yeah, we can run it for you here. We use Social Security timing. If you ever get to a place where you want to run them on your own, you can use Social Security timing, or I can talk to you about some other software programs that might be more cost effective for you.
That's actually all the questions, Jeff.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.
Call us if you have questions. Thanks. Bye-bye.